Hi, my name is Tori and I am a doctor of physical therapy who specializes in pelvic dysfunction. And today I am so honored and excited to be doing a request video. Seriously, you guys, thank you so much for requesting and watching and commenting and liking and subscribing, all of it. You have no idea how much it means to me, and you have no idea how truly honored I am to be doing requests, so thank you. Anyway, in today's request video, I am going to be answering the question, how did I get into pelvic physical therapy? I'll be honest, reflecting on the answer to this question was a really interesting exercise. It brought up a lot in my mind about societal expectations and how fascinating it is that we ask such young humans who most of the time don't know who they are yet, let alone what it means to do something 40 hours a week, every week for the rest of your working life. It's like I said, fascinating. But regardless, I'm really excited to share this story, so let's rewind all the way back to when I was a kid. I have a severely handicapped younger sister, which means that I grew up with nurses in the home taking care of her since I was really little, like 5 years old, and both of my parents are in healthcare. And so I think it makes a lot of sense that I held tightly to healthcare and decided to go into healthcare. And when I was maybe 12 or 13 years old, I made the decision that I was going to be a physician, that I was going to go to medical school. And I held on to that decision firmly throughout all of high school and throughout most of college. And so when I got to college, I knew immediately that I was going to be completing the pre-med track so that I could apply to medical school and hopefully get into medical school. And because I knew I was doing the pre-med track, I gave myself permission to major in something fun, to major in something that I thought was interesting. My line of thinking, I remember it specifically, was you're at a liberal arts school, you might as well major in a liberal art. You might as well major in something that fulfills you, something that you think is interesting because you're doing the pre-med thing, so you deserve it. It's such an interesting line of thinking to come from an 18-year-old, this idea that because I was doing the hard and respectable thing, I had somehow earned the interesting and fun thing. I don't blame anyone for that line of thinking. I know that that came from me, from a younger version of me. It's just fascinating to me that at that age, I thought that I had to do something hard in order to earn something fun. At 27, I would say life is awfully short not to do something fun. Life is awfully short not to follow your heart and try your best to follow your dreams. As corny as that sounds, I stand by it and I firmly believe it. Anyway, I decided that I would major in religious studies. So I actually have a Bachelor of Art in religious studies, and the reason that I majored in religion is because I have been fascinated by Eastern philosophy from a really young age. I think I was 16 or 17 and I just stumbled upon the book called The Tao of Pooh, and it really hit me. It's something that really stuck with me. I carried the lessons that I learned from that book into my own life philosophy. It really piqued my interest in Taoism, which ended up piquing my interest in Eastern philosophies in general. And when I got to college, I realized that I could take classes and learn even more about Buddhism and Taoism and Confucianism and Hinduism, and really just lean in to this very natural pull that I had towards this material, towards these philosophies. And so I had a really weird schedule because I was taking religion courses as well as these science courses. And all of my religion professors knew that I was taking all of these pre-med courses and vice versa. And so one day after one of my religion courses, the professor stopped me and he shared with me that his daughter was in her residency and that she was miserable and having a really rough go at it. And I had one of those moments where it really feels like you're beside yourself. You're observing your behavior, almost like you're this anthropologist just looking at your human behavior like, huh, that's interesting. It was this weird aha moment where I realized that I had never stopped to think about residency being challenging. I had never stopped to think about medical school being challenging. I realized in that moment that I had shadowed so many physicians, but never with the intention to decide whether or not I wanted to be a physician, whether or not I would be fulfilled in that line of work. The intention was always, oh, I can put this on my resume. This will help me get into medical school. I also did research for 10 weeks, and I did it for the exact same reason. I researched because I knew that having 10 weeks of research on my resume would help me get into medical school. I didn't research to kind of test the waters and decide whether or not I liked research. It was this huge smack in the face moment, and I'm so grateful for it because it really made me pause and reflect on what I was doing. I was studying for the MCATs at the time. When I say that I was going to medical school, I mean I had blinders on. Like, hi, I'm Tori, I'm 13 years old, I'm going to medical school. Shoop! And so I decided to really sit with what I had realized, and I reached out to specifically female medical students, residents, and physicians to ask them about their experiences, to finally have a conversation about being a physician where the intention was to figure out whether or not I wanted to be a physician. I reached out to women specifically because I've known for a really long time that I want to be a mother, and I wanted to get a pulse on what it was like to be both a mother and a physician, be both a mother and a resident, really understand that work-life balance. And after talking with these women and really reflecting on what my passions were, I realized that medicine wasn't a passion of mine. And while I fully support anyone who is passionate about medicine, pursuing medicine and going to medical school, I couldn't support myself devoting another 4 years to medical school and then maybe 3 or 4 years to residency, and then did I want to do a fellowship? I couldn't support myself devoting that much time to something that I had decided when I was so young without having that fire under my butt, without having that burning sense of passion to propel myself through. And so I walked away from those experiences with a little bit more insight, with a little bit more wisdom into what it meant to do something as a career, but I still had no idea. I still had absolutely no clue. I just had a little bit of a better foundation of work-life balance and do something that you enjoy. Unfortunately, I swung from the I'm gonna be in medical school, I'm gonna be a physician into what can I do in healthcare that is practical? I kind of really swung myself into that work-life balance, and I was like, I need a job where I have work-life balance, and that was my bottom line. That's what I wanted. And so I wanted to stay in healthcare because it's all that I knew, really, and I wanted to do something where I knew that I could work anywhere. I could go part-time if I wanted. I could change up my specialty. I wasn't devoting as much of my youth to school and residency and a potential fellowship, and physical therapy just felt like a good fit through a very practical lens. And what I would pause there and tell my younger self is that devoting 40 hours a week every week for your entire working life to something that is practical also probably isn't the best choice. But I didn't really understand that at the time, and so I went forward with physical therapy, and I got into grad school in Colorado, and I went. And I was going through the motions of grad school, going to class, going to my clinicals, doing all the things that you're supposed to do, and I just so happened to be on a 2-week clinical rotation, which means I wasn't in the classroom. I was under the guidance of a clinical instructor, aka a licensed physical therapist, and I was in the clinic. And I was actually doing outpatient orthopedic pediatrics, which means I was treating kids who have sports injuries. And it just so happened that my clinical instructor was treating a 17-year-old for painful sex. And I was like, hold the phone. We can treat painful sex. I want to treat painful sex. What is this? And it ended up being this catalyst for me into pelvic health. I didn't know it existed. Pelvic health is a very specialized niche within physical therapy. My program, we got a 2-hour lecture on the pelvis and the muscles in the pelvic floor, and then a 2-hour lab where we just palpated the external bony landmarks of the pelvis, and that was it. And I remember that lecture, I remember that lab, and I remember being like, I'm not interested in this. And so in order to pursue pelvic therapy, you have to take continuing education courses outside of your graduate program. And so I decided that I was going to take the entry-level continuing education course in pelvic health, and I took it, and I just remember feeling so passionate. I remember feeling that fire under my butt. I remember being intrigued and fascinated and feeling feelings that I had only ever felt when it came to studying Eastern philosophy, and honestly the way I feel about animals. And that was that for me. I took that entry-level course, and then I knew in my gut, in my heart, that pelvic was for me. And so I made sure that my final clinical rotation, which in my program the final clinical rotation is 16 weeks long, I made sure that my final clinical rotation included at least some pelvic health. I think I was doing pelvic 3 days a week on that rotation, and I did that for 16 weeks. And then I went straight into pelvic physical therapy as a new grad. And I am so grateful to have found it. I feel like most of my life, if you could imagine me as a bubble, I was just kind of floating about, floating around, and when something felt good, I would just float closer to it, and when something felt bad, I would just shoop, float away from it. And I don't say that to make myself sound easygoing. I say that because I'm not very decisive, and I don't think that the decisions that I made in my professional life were ever really that intentional. Pelvic physical therapy kind of fell in my lap by accident, by some really cool synchronicity or coincidence or serendipitous event or whatever you want to say, and I'm so grateful for it, but it wasn't intentional. If I'm being perfectly honest with you all, this YouTube channel is the first intentional decision I've made with my professional life. This YouTube channel mixes all of the lessons that I've learned along my professional journey. This is fun. For me, I so enjoy it. It brings me fulfillment. I feel purpose. I'm interested. I'm fascinated in the things that I'm presenting to you. I love the pelvic topics. I love the life topics. It really feels like the first thing from the ground up foundationally that I've intentionally decided to do professionally. And it's such a unique and good feeling. And that's why I thank you every time I do a request video. That's why I talk about how immensely honored and grateful I am. It really feels good on a lot of different levels. And so that's how I got into pelvic therapy. A happy accident, some life lessons, me being that bubble, floating around towards things that feel good, away from things that feel bad. And I'm really grateful for the ride so far. It's been such a ride. And I think that being a human is one of the most fascinating experiences. It's so weird, and it's so incredible, and it's so hard, and it's so everything in between. And I think that's why I love making life videos just as much as I love making pelvic videos. It's all just really fascinating to me. And that's my story. That's how I got into pelvic physical therapy. Thank you so much for watching. If you like these life videos, please give this video a thumbs up. Feel free to comment absolutely anything in the comment section below. I try really hard to read and respond to all of my comments. If you have content suggestions, a life video that you want me to do, a topic surrounding pelvises that you want me to cover, please feel free to comment that as well. Don't forget forget to check me out on Instagram. I am working much harder now at my Instagram platform. I think I finally have an aesthetic, which is something that I was really struggling with, so check that out. And finally, please subscribe to my channel for more content surrounding not only life things, but also pelvic things. Thank you so much again for watching. I hope that you have an incredible rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.